we are back. Welcome everybody to ReelTime RoundTable. We have a big hot show for you today. We're going to be giving you our review of Five Nights at Freddy's, talk about the Rotten Tomato score and the box office, see if the Rotten Tomato score is really worth its score or if it's actually accurate. We're going to be next giving you our update on the SAG strike. After that, we're going to talk about the trailer that just dropped for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm super excited to talk about that. And lastly, we will talk about yet again, Disney acquiring another streaming service, that and Hulu. But let's hit the intro and we'll get into it. Back everybody to ReelTime RoundTable again, where we give you the best Hollywood news here on YouTube, I guess you want to call it. Yeah, let's go with YouTube. I am your host, Josh Williams. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I am joined by...
Hi, my name's Cass.
I'm Jordan.
Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. We have a pretty fun show, but first off, how are you guys doing today?
Pretty
it's Friday.
Good. I took a power nap before this.
She did. She was literally hanging out on the couch, just like, you remind me of one of my friends, Dan. He was in the military. I have a story about him next week. He literally could fall asleep anywhere. Like,
yeah.
And that almost reminds me, like, if that's how, can you do that? Is that how you do?
If I need to sleep, I need to sleep.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, so let's just get right into it, ladies. If you guys are ready to go, let's start off with Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, it released last week, released on theaters and on Peacock, which I thought would actually mess with the box office, but I mean, apparently, yeah, it definitely did not, because according to Forbes, it made quite a bit of money. It made $78 million opening weekend just in the United States alone, and then I think worldwide it made, I think it was about, 104 million worldwide. 133 million worldwide, which is pretty impressive given the fact that it joined on Peacock. But let's get into the review real quick. Let's start off with you, Kaz. Like, I know you were big into this one. You played all the games. I personally never played the games. I didn't have any stake in it when I saw it. So I'm curious to hear from your perspective, who has a huge stake in this franchise. What did you think?
Well, I have been a fan of FNAF since my middle school days when it first started coming out. When the gameplays were coming out with Markiplier, I was playing the games myself. I was watching all the game theory videos with MatPat and everything. And I continued to be a fan of it all the way up till my college years, and I did dress up to go to the theater.
Really?
I did. I was Bonnie, so it was fun. I think the film, so coming in with a lot of, I know the lore of the games.
Okay.
I have a lot of backstory to what I think the storyline is and what the lore is and all that. And I did enjoy the film, but I was struggling to separate film lore from game lore. And I was wanting more game lore, and obviously they did change it for the movie. It also has a PG-13 rating, which the game itself and the storyline is super dark. It's about murdering children.
I was worried about it being PG-13 with that concept.
Yes, I did overall enjoy it. I thought it was super fun to go dress up and go in the theater with everyone, and we went opening night, so we were cheering, we were clapping, like we were that theater. I did enjoy it, but I think if I was going to recommend someone the Five Nights at Freddy's series, I would say just watch lore videos on YouTube.
Okay.
Versus the movie. But again, I did enjoy the movie, but it's just, I like the spookiness and the scariness of the games, which I did not feel translated into the film.
What score would you give it, you think?
Like a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's about what I would give it too. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, I think having it be an R would have been better, but I get they were trying to get like kids into it and all that stuff, but I don't know. I just feel like having it be a rated R given the fact that after I learned about the lore afterwards, after watching the movie, I was like, man, this could have been so much more bloodier, so much more creepier. You know what I mean? There's so much more to it. But I mean, still, I mean, it made, I mean, right at this point, it's made, up until like today, it's made $152 million worldwide on a $20 million budget, which is pretty good returns.
It's also streaming on every social media platform for free.
What?
Yep.
It's people are pulling it from Peacock and streaming it on TikTok, on X, on YouTube. Like,
And Peacock allows that?
I mean, I don't know if they know what's going on, but it is happening.
Watch, you
And-
just outed everybody,
I
guys.
know,
Good job, just right
but
there.
I think it's
Gone.
impressive that it still has these numbers when you can literally watch it for free online.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan? I mean, did you play the games all growing up as a kid?
Not at all.
Okay.
I knew of them,
Okay.
but I'm not a gamer. I want to be so bad. I have tried, and I can't. But I watched it this morning on
Okay.
Peacock,
Okay.
and I really enjoyed it. I was a little impressed. I found it interesting that you said that the game and the movie, the story wasn't exactly the same. Because I felt like watching this, I was like, if I played them, I feel like it would make a little more sense. And I feel like I would understand, or I'd be more excited about what was going on. But I didn't play them, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I thought it was good. I really liked it.
What'd you give it, do you think?
Probably a 7.
7? I think I said I gave it 6. My biggest thing, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, and I will preface this. I said a bad word, sorry. I will preface this. I like him as an actor. I love him in Hunger
Whoa.
Games.
Oh, okay, I thought you were talking about Matthew, and I was gonna be mad.
But Josh Hutcherson in this movie was not good.
Really?
I did not think he was that good.
Really?
It could have been better. I think the girl was way better. I loved the little
That's
girl.
true.
She was
was good.
great. But I mean, I've seen him what he did in Hunger Games. I think he was great in that. I think he had great acting talent in that. It's just not the par which I expect him to be,
see.
and that's what kind of took me out of it a little bit. But at the end of the day, it was fun. It was interesting. It's something I could probably easily watch during Halloween time.
I
You
was
know.
gonna say I like this film, but the only time I would ever think of playing this movie again really is around the Halloween season when I want to watch something kind of fun. And I will say, when I first watched the film, and those animatronics started building a fort, it originally pissed me off. Like, I actually felt anger. And I understand it in context of the movie. Like, they are children in the suits, and I understand that. But as I watched that as a big fan of the lore
Right.
in the games, I was like, oh, what do you mean? They're building a fort. They're building a fort.
Right. So a little peek behind the curtain. I just realized that probably my audio tech is probably ripping his hair out because you can probably hear my chain through the microphone. So I'm just gonna a little peek behind the curtain there for everybody. I'm gonna take that off.
No drip.
No, whatever. But the last thing I want to bring up for Five Nights at Freddy's was for you guys was so the Rotten Tomatoes score with 168 critics giving it 29% overall aggregate score, which is rotten, and the audience score is 88%. Does that sit well with you guys, do you think, where like most people gave it a bad review? Or like what are your takes on it, Jordan? What about you? Do you think
feel like-
29 is fair or no?
I feel like 29's a little low.
Okay.
Just a little. It wasn't the best movie I've ever seen, but I enjoyed it a little more than the 29. I would say like a 54 maybe.
Okay.
Just
Half and half.
yeah,
This
just
should
a
be
good half and half.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't really agree with a 29% because I think if this movie is standing alone on its own, I think everything that happens in the movie does make sense within the timeline of the animatronics being children and they're possessed, and then the villain comes in, and then we find the connections with the security guard. I think as it stands alone on its own, I do think it makes more sense than a 29%.
Right.
I would agree with Jordan, it's probably like 50, 60%. I don't think it's a life-changing story by any means. But
Okay.
if you are just a critic coming into it and looking at it, I understand a bit, but I do think 29's low.
I think so too. I mean, even though I gave this a 6 out of 10 and I think it's just, just okay, I still feel like basically, what Rotten Tomatoes put down here for their kind of critic consensus, they give their own little brief synopsis is they loaded with Easter eggs, Five Nights at Freddy's may be fun to watch for fans of the game, but most viewers and any other persuasion will find this adaptation muddled and decidedly unscary.
It is not scary, that is true.
No, it's
That's
definitely
true.
not scary. And that was one thing. It get creepy. I will give it creepy. But, I mean, whenever things were coming up, I was like, I just didn't get scared. And
Yeah.
maybe that was the issue.
Yeah.
But, I mean, either way, it's making a ton of money. It's popular. And I'm
It's
sure
fun.
they'll run
It
that
is
gravy
fun.
train as long as they can, because I'm sure sequels are to come.
There's going to be a trilogy confirmed, and Matthew Lillard, I
Okay.
always say Gillard, not his last name, will be in all of them too.
Oh, okay. Very
So.
cool. Awesome.
Maybe they'll get darker as they go along too.
I'm hoping so. We'll see. We'll see. But let's move on here, ladies. We're going to talk SAG. Now, I try, if there's new news that comes up, I try to give new updates on this because it's basically put Hollywood at a standstill. People are losing money. We will talk about that here in a bit. But according to Deadline, SAG, there's still no formal talks right now. Right now, they're bargaining with the companies to try and work with AI proposals. That's the biggest one right now. Originally, like, the producers walked away from the table.
Yeah.
When I heard that, that was pretty scary, personally. When I heard that, you know, not the actors, but the producers did, because apparently what SAG had brought to the table was, I guess, a little too much for them as far as, like, I think it was residuals per streaming, like, for every hour a show is streamed, they wanted a certain amount of money, like actors did, and that was just like too much for them. But for this one, there's a quote here from the TV and Theatrical Negotiating Committee. The negotiating committee was on standby today, waiting to response from the AMTP on both the AI counter we presented yesterday and the comprehensive counter proposal we passed across table 5 days ago, which basically is to the table to SAG. So it looks like things are still just going back and forth here. But at least things are negotiating, at least they're at the table. There's a big point in time, I think you guys remember, that they were not at the table. But the thing I wanted to bring up today was not just this update, but just the overall, so I'm going to start with you. Actually, I'm going to start with you, Jordan, since I started with you last time.
You can start with Cassidy.
You want to start with
Yeah,
Cassidy?
let's start with Cassidy.
Fine,
Let's start with
fine.
Yes.
No,
Yes,
so
Josh.
Cass, SAG, I am full support of this. You know, I am full support. They should get what they're owed, within reason, of course. You know, compromising is key, I always believe. But we're at a point now where Hollywood's been shut down for so long, and not including the writers or SAG who went on strike, all the below-the-line people are really suffering right now. How are you feeling about this strike as it goes on? Like, I don't think any of our support is weighing by any means for SAG.
No.
But how are you feeling just about the rest of Hollywood not necessarily moving forward, and people are like, savings are being, you know, dwindled down to almost nothing and stuff like that. But how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, we actually the other day had a guest speaker come in who works within the film industry. He's the director of photography, and he was speaking on how, you know, your savings can only go so far, and he hasn't been in work since May, and it's now November, and there's still not really an end in sight for this. And although I obviously do support what's going on, because we're a part of the strike affects us too in all the media realms, but it's honestly on these big corporations to get moving. They have all this money, they have all this power, and if they're not willing to split it equally, then although I don't like that people are running out of savings, I think it's worth it to keep the strike going, because I'm sick and tired of these corporations with billions of dollars not paying the people what they deserve. They're the ones who make this stuff. The big corporations just get the paycheck.
No, yeah. Right. You're absolutely right. What about you, Jordan? Like, how are you feeling about, with all of this going on, and people, like other workers who are out of you know, work? Like, what are your thoughts on everything?
I agree. I think it is very sad to hear that apparently people are they're starting to stretch a little bit because they're running out of an income. They're not getting that monthly income, and it does suck. But I mean, at some point, you kind of have to just go, it's not going to change unless you keep going. So, and it does. It's sad.
I did think it was really cool. I wish other guilds would do this for their workers, but like, you saw some actors who were like the high percentage actors. They were giving money to SAG to help pay for people's like bills and stuff so they can stay on strike. Like, I think like Ryan Reynolds did, George Clooney. There's a lot of people who like donated millions of dollars to this fund to help keep people flush. But before like I said, I support this. I still think they should keep going. I don't think they should, you know, of course, compromise is key. I think that's a really big thing. I think we can all agree on that. Like, there's some things that you know, the producers proposed that I was like, that's stupid. Like, the AI, like taking someone's AI image in perpetuity, I think is just the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. But, you know, at the same time, I will also agree that what SAG proposed for how much money they would get per viewing of a show or something on a streaming service, that's a lot too. You know what I mean? So it's all about compromising where you can find the middle ground. But before anybody, I know there's people out there who are angry that this is going on, and like, you know, how could these? Because a lot of people, the misconception is that SAG is just full of all these actors who make millions and millions of dollars. You know what I mean? I found this statistic on Rolling Stone that only 7% of SAG actors, performers make $80,000 or more.
Yeah.
7%. And only 14% make at least 26,000. You know, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah, because I have a friend who he's about to graduate and join. He wants to be an actor and work in this field. And he was filling me in on the statistics of how likely it is for him to make an actual living off of this. And it's like below 20%. It's insanely low, but he would still be a part of this union. And so I think it's important to remember too that a lot of these people in this union are not the upper dogs, and in fact most of them are down here.
yeah, because we see all these A-list actors and everything like that, you know, out there on the red carpet and stuff like that. But that's, like I said, that's only 7, maybe even less than like 5%. You know what I mean? So what, like, to wrap this up, and we'll move on to our next segment. But like, what do you guys foresee as like the time? Like, what would you predict would be the time that we actually see this come to a close? Like, what do you think, Jordan? Like, you think they're getting close enough, or do you think this is going to go on for a lot longer?
I think it's gonna go for a little bit. I think mid 24, kind of the summer. I don't know. It's been going on since July, right? June, July.
SAG, yes, July.
Yes. But I don't know. I think it's gonna keep going for a little bit, just a little longer.
And that's one of the big other things too, because a lot of different movies and TV shows that are slated to start production, they have to keep pushing back that time because actors, without the actors, and even extras, you don't have in a set.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, the previous strike that went on in 07 and 08 lasted for 100 days. This one's way over that at this point. And I could see them coming to terms with like the writers, but then the actors are not being. I don't know when it's going to end because both sides need to feel like they've been heard and their needs have been met. And since they're both going at the same time, I would kind of agree with Jordan. I think we have a couple more months of this going on, unfortunately.
I would say at least definitely a couple months. I would say I would hope, since they're actually at the negotiating table and we keep getting updates that they're at least, you know, counter proposing things like that instead of just walking away. I would say hopefully by, at the bare bones, Christmas, but at the I would say the realistic is probably January.
I do think because the holiday season for studios, Christmas and Thanksgiving, are huge money makers. I used to work at a movie theater, and those are insane times down there. And they always release a super big blockbuster they know is going to get families in, that hits every demographic. And if they don't have anything to release in 2024, I think they're going to start scrambling to try to get something together so that they will have something to release.
Yeah, because I found it funny that I was looking into it, and before I was wondering like why producers weren't going to the table, like why they're refusing to work with the actors. Now they are miraculously all of a sudden they're working with them. That's because they're running out of stuff that's in the can.
Yeah,
they're running out of like stuff that's to be released. So once they'll do whatever it takes to keep their profits turning. So if that means negotiating, I guess they will. But I find it a little interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about money. And if they have nothing to put out anymore and they have no income coming in, they're gonna quickly try to wrap it up. I think.
Yeah. All right, folks, let's move on here to the next segment. We are talking the Planet of the Apes trailer. Now, I can't remember. I didn't even ask you guys before we started, but were you guys a fan of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the most recent trilogy, with like starting with James Franco and all that stuff?
I've seen the first one.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Yes, and I believe the second one. I don't remember seeing the third one, and I know this is like the fourth one, but I remember enjoying them. But if we're talking Planet of the Apes, the OG trilogy is just so much better. And that's the one that sticks in my head.
The original movie is much better.
Yeah. I guess you're right. That's not a trilogy.
I've seen all of them, and there's some other ones. But did you watch the trilogies at all?
I did not follow it at all.
Oh, man.
It's not a franchise I got into, really.
It's one of the most underrated trilogies of like the 2010s. I love this trilogy so much, and like once I heard they were definitely going to make a fourth one, I was super stoked and pumped. The main reason because Caesar, who the ape that's mainly followed in the trilogy, who kind of starts everything essentially, he dies at the end of, spoiler alert, he dies at the end of War of the Planet of the Apes. But I was hoping that this would follow his son, like many years later or something like that. Maybe his son is the king or something. Apparently not. Apparently, if you see here on the screens here, this follows a new character who has sympathy for humanity. And we see a bunch of different factions for this one. It's called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Guess I'll start myself off here. I did love the trailer. I thought it was awesome. The CGI looked great. I will say he did not look the best.
Okay.
This new character, I thought his was a little iffy. But for the vast majority, I thought the CG was awesome. The story looks intriguing. The only thing I'm still like, I'm all for, if you're starting a franchise, I'm all for like keeping the legacy of a franchise. And to me, following Caesar's son would have been more optimal. But I mean, the movie could come out and it could be awesome. We don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm bummed because it's not following his son. But regardless, I mean, you see some of these stills and it's just, at this point in the franchise, you see from the trailer that, humanity, humans have started to become dumbed down because of the virus, because in the trilogy that spread throughout the world. And now, the apes are finally we're kind of basically at the point where the original OG Planet of the Apes is at, pretty much. Where, the apes are taking, or control of the world and everything like that. But I had a good time with the trailer. I'm excited. I thought it was cut really well. Jordan, you saw the trailer. What did you, I mean, someone who isn't a fan of the franchise, I guess, but what did you think of just the trailer overall to get you excited?
The trailer looks good. I liked it. I don't watch the franchise, so I don't feel like I can get as hyped for it. But the CGI looks killer.
Yeah.
It looks so, even these, I mean, those look sick.
Yeah, this one behind me, I saw that shot in the trailer, wow, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But what about you, Kaz?
Okay, I might be a hater. I'm sorry. It's not that the trailer, and I think the CGI obviously looks really good. It's kind of giving Last of Us vibes with the horse and all the cities looking down, and then the humans they're not zombies, but I don't know. I was just
the humans have basically gone back down to Neanderthals almost.
Yeah. I just am a little tired of movies, series that already exist, keeping things going instead of coming up with original ideas.
The studio.
I am over remakes. This story, how many times can you tell the same story? And I get that this is a different version of it, so maybe
different universe of Planet of the Apes,
maybe this one will prove me wrong. But if you're asking me base level what my OG thoughts are, I'm kind of over it, and I want to see something new.
Yeah. I guess that's fair. That's actually one thing I was thinking about as far as franchises go. How long do you think franchises? Because these movies made profit, but not a ton. How do you foresee? So this, I think, War of the Planet of the Apes only made, I think it's $600 million, which is still a lot, but it's only $200 million budget. Do you think that movie was released in 2017? Do you guys think this can have the legs to actually make money, or do you think this might be the end of the franchise?
Again, I worked at a movie theater, so I feel like I kind of know audience perspective a little bit, at least where I was. I could see this doing well opening weekend because it's opening weekend. It is a story that people know. It's an action film. It's super CGI. So I think it could do well opening weekend. However, I could see it drop off super quick. Super, super quick.
Like a big drop second weekend?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I agree with Cass. I think it for people who like the franchise, I think it'll do great the first weekend. But I think people are also kind of getting a little tired with continuing a story and then remakes. I think people want to see something a little fresher, which it sounds like it's a new story, so it could do really well. But I agree. I think.
And there's also a topic here that it's a little hot take, and I might get hate by both of you guys, but this is what this show's about, is hot takes.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you guys that studios should be finding new original movies, original ideas to bring out there. A lot of times, sometimes those do catch, and then also become franchises because that's what production companies do. They want to make money. The problem I have is when a studio does make an original film,
no one
goes to see it. So audiences, if you guys want original stuff,
go to the movies. Become a Stubbs member. Go to your local theater and watch the movies, or else we're just gonna keep getting remakes of things and nothing original.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest things, because I go see original movies all the time.
Same.
Especially during Oscar season. I go all the time. But when I go to those movies, there's not very many people there. Not for something like this, or Avengers, or Star Wars, or anything like that. We'll get into all that. Don't worry. Calm.
Opinions on Marvel.
Calm. Hey, I like Marvel. But anyway, no. So that was one of the biggest things I want to take away with this, and I think that's why they brought back the franchise, because it still made money, and at the end of the day, I'm curious to see where the story goes.
Yeah.
Right.
They just, because it's existing, it's gonna make something.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
gonna make more
Right.
than if it started off as nothing.
Right.
So.
But what do you guys think? I actually hadn't asked that before. What do you guys think of the previous stuff that we've talked about so far? Jump in the comments, let us know, and share your thoughts. Now, let's talk about our last segment of the night. And Cass is already angry.
I know.
She knows what's
She's
coming.
ready.
We are talking Disney. According to Forbes, Disney has bought out Comcast's 33% stake in Hulu and is now the majority owner of the streaming service, which that makes, God, how many do they have now? So they have Fox.
15. They own 15 altogether,
Yeah, that's insane.
including Marvel, ESPN, Pixar, Lucasfilms, ABC, 20th Century, obviously Walt Disney Studios, and A&E. The list just continues to go on
Yep.
and on and on.
And apparently Disney, according to Forbes, Disney will pay Comcast about $8.6 billion by December 1st to reach their agreed upon amount, which is insane, especially when you're given the fact that they're paying this much to invest in this, but they're reducing budgets for a lot of like their shows on Disney Plus. Now, I'm going to start off with Jordan here, but I'm going to give my quick take on it too as well. I think everybody has their thoughts on Disney and and all this stuff, but I will say I still love my Disney stuff. I still love Marvel. I still love the
Right.
MCU. I still love Star Wars. Okay, Star Wars Disney Plus, not the Star Wars movies because they sucked. But so I love all that, but the problem I'm seeing here is Disney's buying too much stuff. I mean, can you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like they're buying up too much stuff to where should we start to worry about a monopoly? Like
I think a little bit. I mean, do they need everything? But they're
exactly.
getting to the point where everything is owned by Disney. You can't watch anything
Yeah.
that's on its own.
Like two of the big trailers I want to talk about today was possible. Definitely, we talked about Planet of the Apes, which is owned by Century Fox, which was previously 20th Century Fox, which is
Yep.
now owned by Disney.
Yeah.
Owned by Disney.
But then I was going to talk about the new Echo trailer that dropped out today, which is going to be on Disney Plus, but is Marvel. And so like it seems like anything, like you said, anything that's coming on, will it now be on Hulu or now like ESPN or anywhere, it's owned by Disney.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, I kind of see it as a big problem now. Been waiting on Kaz here
know, me
because she's
too.
about to go off, I think.
Okay.
But go ahead, Kaz.
So I have
for
to
it.
start this off. So my whole life, I've been a huge Disney fan. I've loved the films since I was a kid. Me and my family would go to the parks all the time. It's such a happy place for us. We have great memories.
I've never been to Disney World.
And then the aspect of like Disney and the memories I hold for it, I love it. But as a company and where it stands now, I do not. They anger me. Just to start off, currently there's a boycott calling out for Disney because they donated $2 million to Israel, and as you know, there is a literal war going on about that right now. I'm not going to get too into it, but I will say I don't support them giving money to Israel. That
Okay.
I don't support at all. We were talking about the writer's strike earlier, and Bob Iger, who is their CEO.
Yeah, the main guy, so everybody knows Bob Iger, he is the head honcho.
Yeah.
He's the guy in charge of literally everything. Go ahead.
He says that writers and actors are not being realistic with strikes, and it's very disturbing to him. What I think is just disturbing is that he makes $27+ million a year, which is 400 times what his lowest paid worker makes, which, by the way, was me, 100%, because I did the Disney College program, and I was at the bottom of the barrel of that company, and I know overworked, terrible pay, no benefits, and they take advantage of that. And I feel like they do that with everything as they're making the most amount of profit possible and then blaming it on us for things that just aren't happening and aren't working. And I'm just sick and tired of Disney acting like they're this golden, beautiful company, and they have their 100th anniversary going on right now, putting all kinds of videos out, Do they warm my heart? Yes, because I have a soft spot for the characters and the stories. But as a company, it pisses me off, and
It's
I'm very
taking advantage of that emotion.
I'm very satirical about it because I have experienced what it's like to work for this company, and also what they continue to do every single day. And when the CEO is making statements about how he thinks it's disturbing
during the strike,
that his workers are asking for money so they can live their life when you are making millions of dollars a year. I can't even comprehend. And you're gonna buy Hulu for $8 billion when there's real problems going on that you guys could help support, but you want to make more money from another streaming company? It's just ridiculous, and I'm just sick and tired. It's same with like Elon Musk buying Twitter for billions and billions of dollars. You could literally could solve world hunger with money like that, but no, you want to buy a platform to make more money for yourself and keep the wealth to you. And I'm just sick of it.
If I could applaud, no. No, and so I find it funny when he made that comment that he was on him and all the producers, Hollywood producers, while the strike was going on. He made that comment at this like retreat for like all the billions and billionaires that like rode in on their helicopters and like, you know, went to this little, you know, getaway retreat and stuff like that. I was like, it's a very interesting time to say that kind of comment.
How disconnected from society can you really be to say stupid like that? Like, seriously. Like, wake up a little bit, dude.
And one of the things I kind of wanted to bring to the table with both of you guys, and any one of you can chime in, and of course, they're not a monopoly of that, because if they were, the government would step in and say you can't do that because there are laws against that.
Right.
But at what point are we, like, realistically here, are we looking at, like, Disney just needs to stop? Like, I don't know. What do you think? Like, at what point do we just kind of go, you know, but should the government just start to step in and say, like, you guys just should stop because you're starting to take over the market a little too much? Because right now, as it stands, as far as major Hollywood studios go, there's Disney, there's Warner Brothers, there's Universal. That's it.
I think the government is not going to step in, I don't think, because I just don't have faith in that. I think if we want to kind of stop this from happening, we have to boycott. We have to stop supporting them. And I don't necessarily even want, I know that these are the steps, and like I said, I have a soft spot for this company just because of like my childhood and things that I've been through with them. But if we don't stop supporting them, they're just going to keep doing this, and I'm just over it.
I agree. I don't have faith that our government's going to step in if it does continue. So I do think if it gets worse, we do have to just kind of stop ourselves. I don't think they're going to step in much.
And the other thing I was just thinking about is, like, I guarantee at one point when you go to the movie theater, if they keep doing this, all of a sudden out of nowhere you're going to go to the movie theater and like every movie is going to be a Disney-owned franchise, because you have a Marvel movie or you have a Disney movie and you have something released by 20th Century Fox, or, you know, or like, you know what I mean? What were you going to say?
Well, just this is kind of something where I'm kind of like, I'm just over Disney, you know, a bit, and they have a big stake in like Pride, and in their parks they have Pride days. They sell all kinds of rainbow merchandise. They do it during Pride Month. They say to support the community. How many queer characters are in their movies? 0. And if there are, they're side characters who they barely mention, that are barely even represented, period. They maybe just like hold hands for a second. And they say they're all about inclusivity and all this stuff. And then they don't do it because they're afraid of what the backlash is going to be. And I am sick of them saying things that they don't really stand for.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're going. I completely. and I see where you're going, and I agree with you. I wouldn't say completely, but I agree with you. I agree with you. It's always a double-edged thing, because while I do agree they need to be inclusive, they need to include characters and stuff like that. What I've noticed, though, sadly, is with the reality of it is when they do that with certain films and do certain things, those films don't make money. And we all agreed, sadly, whether whether we think things should be done right or not, like we agree we want that same thing. Right. But I'm looking at it from, like, you know, the studios, if they're gonna look at, like, when they make those movies and they're not making the profits they want, they will revert back to whatever they think their quote unquote audience would want. And that, but then that, again, that just reverts back to, you know, not
Right.
including people
Well,
into
we
it.
have seen that although box office traditionally, those might not do as well, but there are plenty of animated films that have queer characters that are released on streaming platforms that do totally fine
Turning
and
Red.
well. And the one that we just watched for Cinema Sit Down,
Nimona.
Nimona, that was all about
Great
queer
movie.
characters.
Great
and
movie.
they can't act like there's not an audience out there for it. And although it might not make as much money, at some point it's kind of like a moral question of when are we going to allow characters like this to be in the forefront. And it was the same with like black main characters or Asian main characters. All the main characters were always white, and they said that if they weren't white, they wouldn't turn a profit, and that's simply just not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not true.
I think as long as the story is good, they don't add politics into something. And to me, like, adding a character, like adding an LGBT character is not politics.
No.
No, that's just the right thing to do. But like, you know, certain films, whether you're right or left, doesn't matter. There's always they add in a political agenda or something like that. I'm not all for that. You just give us a good human story, a human experience story, and people will gravitate toward it, no matter who it may be. And but it's Hollywood, sadly, that all they see are numbers.
I know.
And that's how it will be. It's kind of like what's going on with the Snow White movie, like the huge backlash that happened. Now, we won't get into that one too much. We won't get into that one too much. Maybe next week we'll cover it, 'cause that's constantly changing. But there was a backlash with that, what happened with everything with that, and then they changed certain things because there was a backlash from it and everything like that. But we can get into that another time. But either way, I'm just worried. I think if they're like one more acquisition away from being a monopoly, I fear.
Yeah.
So. But that was straight, folks. Thank you so much for watching. More importantly, what did you think of all of these news segments? Leave your comments section below. Let us know what your thoughts on them. And also give us your score on Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Also, if you like what you watch, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to receive more of our content in the future. That's all for today. Again, I'm Josh Williams, and thank you for keeping it real with ReelTime.
Bye.
Bye-bye.